Bada bing bong. Right, hello. Facebook always takes a little while to start for some reason. It's very weird. You start it and it goes off and it comes on and I'm not the greatest when it comes to technology at the best of times anyway, but I'm working on it. So tonight I'm going to be talking about the past. I'm going to talk about how the past does not define us. And firstly, I want to just mention I'm working one-to-one with people at the moment, and I'm looking to work with more people. And if you're looking to improve all areas of your life, confidence, self-esteem, your self-belief, literally everything, like work-life balance, whatever it may be, if there's something in your life that's not particularly working the way you want it to right now, then I can help you with that. But before I go into everything I'm going to talk about tonight, I want to also mention that I'm available to speaking events. Next week I'm very busy, but with prisons, my favourite places. I'm working in HMP, Dovegate and the Mount next week. And I've got my IPP review, so it's going to be a really funny week actually. IPP, Indeterminate Public Protection, if no one knows what that means, that's the prison sentence I was given, which is a life sentence. And I've got my review next week, so touch wood, it might be getting, I don't know, revoked. Let's see. But anyway, before I go, I'm not going to talk about that anymore. I'm going to talk about the past, like I said, and how the past does not define us. So one of the hardest things for any of us to do when we've said and done things that we perhaps regret or wish we hadn't done or which we'd done differently in the past is to move on from that. It's very difficult to find a way forward when we know we've done things that we shouldn't have, or we've got some sort of guilt or blame going on, or all of that sort of stuff. It's very difficult. So when I was released from prison 5 years ago, in November, I was lost. I completely lost. I didn't know where I was going in life. Everything that I'd once known, my family, my home, my friends, my job, everything, my cats, all had gone. And I literally had nothing there to come out to. And even though I was in a very good space at the time when I was in prison, funny enough, because I was doing well, everyone knew me, I was friends with all the officers and all the inmates, I got on with everybody. Even though I was in a good space, when I actually got out, it was a major culture shock for me when I actually walked through those gates into society again. And, I found that I was totally lost. I had nothing. I struggled for a while. It was about a year I struggled through, not really having any direction with my life and not knowing what I was going to do. And as a consequence of that, my general view on life was quite negative. It was my energy was low. I wasn't motivated to do anything. I had no real ideas about what I wanted to do. And it was then that I sort of stumbled across coaching, and more specifically IPEC, the Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching. And that's who I enrolled with to become a professional coach. It was a leap of faith that I took because I had no idea where it would lead to at that time. But I knew I had to do something, and I did. And I threw myself into that fully. And for the next couple of years, trained with them to become a professional coach. So the training that I received with them, the philosophy that they taught me specifically, because a lot of people don't really understand what happens when you're trained as a coach. It's not just like teaching you how to ask questions or whatever, which is part of it, obviously, but they taught me a whole new way of thinking, a whole new philosophy and way of being, which subsequently gave me back the direction in my life. Because once you learn this stuff, and this is exactly what I do with my clients now. Once you learn this stuff, yes, it's learning is one thing, but you've got to live it. You've got to breathe it, practice it, and become it. And that takes time. It's not an easy process. It doesn't happen overnight. So I was struggling to move forward, even though I'd learned this new philosophy, way of being. I knew that it worked. I just couldn't implement it in the way that I truly wanted to at that time. So I was still struggling, and I couldn't really work out why. Because I knew I had the skills and the tools to do what I wanted and be successful and all of those things, but I just didn't know how to move forward in that way that I really wanted to. And there was something missing. I just didn't know what at that time. It was actually sometime later, probably about, how long? 2 years later, after I actually qualified as a coach. That, and I was practicing this new way of thinking and being, that I started to actually realise what was holding me back from really moving forward and really being who I truly wanted to be within myself. It was my past. And now looking back on it, I'm surprised I didn't notice it sooner, but at that time I didn't. And so, it was more specifically my beliefs, my attitudes, the fact that I had gone through so much stuff in my life previously, which wasn't particularly positive. I'd hurt a lot of people. I'd done a lot of damage, caused a lot of trauma, and I blamed myself. I blamed myself for the pain and hurt I caused people. More specifically, I blamed myself for the losses of my family whilst I was in prison, because even though I was convicted of something I didn't actually do in that sense, the fact is I'd done a lot of things in the past which led to that point, which led to me getting sent to prison. And that was my fault. That's why I was not a victim of injustice. That's why, even though I was convicted of something I know I didn't do, it wasn't, I don't sit there and go, oh, poor me because I got convicted. It was my actions and beliefs and attitudes that led me to that situation in the first place, which got me convicted of something I hadn't done. So I had to take responsibility for that. And it was knowing that led me to feel the guilt, the blame, and all of the rest of it. So, I struggled. I struggled really hard to accept myself for who I am. I really had a problem with that. I wasn't the person I used to be. I was always a confident, outgoing sort of person, and that disappeared. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel myself anymore. And as a result, I had very low self-esteem. The self-belief wasn't there. And even though I was working to try and improve that, I didn't really know what was stopping me getting back to feeling the way I wanted to feel in terms of confidence and self-belief and being who I really wanted to be. I hated any sort of compliments, any sort of accolades. I would lash out at things, if I felt triggered. For instance, if someone, and I've had this a lot recently, I had it today actually, people who are obviously going through difficulties themselves, trying to say things that hurt you, and I would be triggered and I would lash out in response or react. And because I saw it as a slight on me in some way, and what it really did is trigger those hidden beliefs that I had, that I was in some way a fraud or a charlatan or whatever you want to call it, because I had that belief at that time that this was who I was in the past and this is who I am now, but I hadn't become who I am now. I was still partly dealing with all the stuff from the past, and that took me a lot of time to sort of work through. So the truth of the matter is I simply hadn't accepted myself and the past and everything that had gone on in the past and moved forward with that. And it was only when I truly did accept or work with my coach and also on myself to deal with the acceptance side of things that I started to move forward. So when we are focused on the past and all the stuff we've done wrong, it leads to us feeling this way. So self-defeating thoughts, which prevent us from ever seeing anything with any real clarity. I was constantly looking backwards over my shoulder. I was never looking forwards. And as a result of that, I missed countless opportunities because I'm only focusing on the problems and not the opportunities in front of me. And if you do that, if you focus on the doors that are closed, you're never going to see the doors that are open. So when we focus on things like that, which we should have done in the past, or what I should have done and how I wish I'd done that differently, or whatever it may be, what you do is miss the learning and growth attached to that situation. Even though it might be a very difficult situation that you went through, there's still learning and there's always learning and growth attached to it. But if you're focusing only on the issue, the problem, you're never going to see that. You're never going to see the learning and growth. So you're just going to feel victimized. You're going to feel angry and not move forward. Truth is, we never knowingly make a mistake in life. Okay, so we always choose whatever we believe in that moment to be the best possible choice in that situation. It might not be the best choice when we look back on it, but at that moment, it tends to be the best choice that we see at that time. So you see, all of these things are influenced by the way we think, our belief system, and so on. So therefore, instead of beating yourself up about mistakes and things that you've done in the past, which you wish you'd done differently, relax. Know that you can't ever make a mistake. We don't do it deliberately. There's no such thing as a mistake, because everything we do which is termed a mistake, we learn and grow from, if you choose to. And if you do that, it's not a mistake. So when you learn to accept your past as it is, without the judgment, with objectivity, without the right or wrong, good or bad sort of mentality attached to that, what it does, it frees you up. It frees you up to take control of your life. It frees you up to see the learning, see the growth, and implement that into your new life. And that's so important. We make choices based on our past, our belief systems. And perhaps, we have a collective consciousness that's aligned with our DNA as well. So there's a lot of reasons why we make certain decisions and choices in life. In order to truly move forward in life, however, it's important we fully accept ourselves, the good, the bad, and everything in between. So what has gone before and who we are now, as well as everything like, around you, your environment, the people around you, and so on. So only then will you start taking opportunities, seeing the possibilities, and actually start striving forward, making choices and decisions which work for you, instead of keeping you stood still and not achieving your goals in life, or having no direction, having no purpose. Only then will you start to really move forward with your life, once you fully accept yourself. And then you'll start seeing doors open in front of you, instead of focusing on the doors that are closing behind you. So it's not an easy thing to do. It really isn't. It took me a long time to work through, and luckily I had a coach myself at the time, because he helped me a massive amount doing that. Because had I not had him, I probably wouldn't have had the introspectiveness to actually look beyond my own belief system and see what was really truly going on there. So we're not defined by our past. Each moment in life gives you the opportunity to decide exactly who you want to be in that moment. So all that we experience in life is an opportunity of growth. Everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you learn from the past, but don't live in it. We can, that's the only time it's worth looking back, is when we're learning or remembering something that's good. But there's no point looking back and just spending your life living in it. Struggling with self-acceptance, low self-esteem, things like that, low confidence, the lack of the ability to see a road forwards in life. That's something a lot of people are currently struggling with in life, especially when you're focusing on all the crap that's around us going on. And I can help people with that. I've been there, seen it, done it myself. I now work specifically with men who are going through a transition or transformation in their life in some way. And if you feel that I can help you, and if you feel that you're in a position now to start moving forward with your life, and you're tired of just existing in your life and not really doing anything in terms of moving forward in the direction that you truly want to be, then please give me a call and I will have a chat with you, and we'll see where we go from there. And that's all I wanted to say tonight. And if there's any more questions, or you want to know more about how to do this, or how we can start working together to move forward, then please do give me a call. Okay, I hope you've had a great evening, and I will speak to you all next time. See you soon. Bye.